Happy to hang around for a couple of questions. Ashley, anyone got any questions of Ashley from his presentation? Sir.
So excuse my ignorance about this, Ashley, but I assume that the signatories for the Code of Conduct are generally the wine producers and not the grape growers aren't expected to be signatories, yeah?
Correct.
I think you said on the website or in the annual report there's a list of them all. Probably a good idea to put that up, maybe, I don't know. I assume that those that have turned up here are signatories, the winemakers are probably signatories, so we wouldn't be embarrassing anybody if we put that up, but it'd be interesting to know. So that's more of a comment than a question, isn't it? But it's a thought.
Well, I think, to be frank, what do the first movers get from an advantage perspective in doing that? Well, I think, good corporate citizens be prepared to put it out there in that context. If we don't do some of this stuff, then the potential for, mandatory codes and things become very real. And so I think that, it's important. I love, Bruce is saying he doesn't have power other than to point and name and shame. And I think we can do that in a positive manner as well. And we as grape growers, I think we've got a voice in that context as well. When we've got a choice, make those right choices, because we reap what we sow.
Any final questions? You don't need a microphone.
Have you had any feedback from wineries that haven't signed the code as to why they won't sign it?
I had an interesting conversation with Smalls winemaking. So most of you know AGW is made up of 4 colleges: vignerons, small, medium and large winemakers. And I found it really interesting that there was a potential vibe from a small going. Sometimes growers push small winemakers around, take the fruit off them, and because someone else comes in and they hadn't bolted it down with the rock star agreement, and that they got pushed around in that context. And I think we all need to be accountable for that type of behaviour. And frankly, if that comes up at the Code Management Committee, or we've got to look at that through the lens, and as to is that a good outcome for the industry, I'd say, well, it's not. And so I think it's a two-sided street, Sami. We need to make sure that we're all acting in a symbiotic, again, that word, symbiotic. We can't, as soon as we become parasitic, or we hand the baseball bat because there's, an undersupply, and I've got the baseball bat this year, and then next year it's an oversupply, and I hand the baseball bat over. That's too hard. That's not a sustainable, flexible industry.
Yeah, Ash, you might have mentioned the numbers, but how many wine companies are in Australia, and how many are signed up to signatory to the code? Do you have rough numbers on that?
I think is there 72, 75, Bruce? 79.
That are signatories?
Yeah, I think there's in there about 2,000 something notional wine companies in Australia.
Right.
But so you've got to be careful about the bell curve in that context.
So
I think it's more importantly,
lies a big problem.
Yeah, yes, but to me the bigger problem is 60 to 70% of intake is under the code. So there's a big chunk of intake that's not under the code. And the reality is our bell curve is, we're concentrated with some big entities that take the fruit, and it's really about that sort of mid curve that we need to concentrate on.
So that's what the ACCC is nudging you guys about, is actually we don't have enough signatories of the code.
Yeah, I'm nudging you back. I'm nudging all of us back to ask that question. Because if we don't ask the question, it's easy not to address it. So growers have got some power as well, and they can say, "Get stuffed, Keegan. I'm not signing it." Well, that's fine, but I got a long memory, and when the industry turns, I'll make the decisions that I'm going to make.
The other point too is that you made that an example is that if there was, and we're going to a pricing payment of say 30 days and what have you, and said, look, the sort of scenario that you came up with, but I guess in some ways, is that a bad shift to make that change? There'll be some winners and losers, but there's enough of a shift there to actually change some thinking in the industry to make it eventually a positive outcome?
Yeah,
Because you've got to change your business models.
Good question, Ben. And like I'm 95% of what I do is grow grapes and sell to other people, but I do the wine play, and I've done that generally where I haven't been able to sell fruit, or there's I sniff a commercial opportunity to do that. But what it does is very significantly is change your cash flow cycle. And the late great Ian Edgley used to be our chairman. He used to be chair of Wolf Blass. He goes, one really quick and easy way to go broke in the wine industry is grow really quick. So you've got to feed that cash. If you want to go out and become, all of a sudden, if I wanted to become from a grape grower to a winemaker, I'm going effectively 3 years without cash flow if I'm going to do that. So you've got to right-side your business at the right time, and it's probably one of the tougher times to try to do that stuff now, because there's no premium for bulk wine in the market at the moment, in my opinion.
Final question? All said? All done? All quiet? Ladies and gentlemen, please thank Ashley Keegan.